Hello, my name is Emeka Jikeme, Vice President Human Resources of Locus Innovation. Welcome to this systematic reviews, findings, and recommendations. Looking at the introduction of this presentation, it's all about evaluating two systematic reviews. Compare them using a benchmark I have developed. Apply one I have determined to be better to workplace flexibility. Evaluate the transparency and rigor of the reviews. Findings to evidence-based management, which will be applied to solve the problem in locus innovation. Then three actionable recommendations will be presented that will be the solution to provide workplace flexibility in locus innovation. Systematic review is simply the use of combination of discoveries and findings and evidences published to solve managerial problems. In using evidence-based management, you are actually using a scientific evidence in combination with other authentic sources of evidence in critical decision-making to actually solve managerial problems. The problem here now is low staff retention due to reported lack of work-life balance. But the question is here, will it be in our best interest for locus innovation to create a more flexible work environment to solve this particular problem? The CEO provided two important articles for this systematic review: Jimenez and Keeler, Vandevous, and others. These two articles will be highly synthesized and will be used for the systematic review. For the method or quality appraiser tool, I'll be using the popular TEPUPAS framework. TEPUPAS is an acronym, and the basis for my selecting TEPUPAS is that TEPUPAS framework will help me to assess the systematic review qualitatively. It will also provide up-to-date, relevant, unbiased, and rigorous value for the article being evaluated. We look at different aspects of the systematic review to determine the quality of the article. It will evaluate the systematic review to enhance understanding and provide evidence in a way that will allow transparency and transferability in case of any replication. To assess the qualitative system review for rigor and trustworthiness, which is domain quality between the two articles. And we provide the thinking space to assess quality of systematic review, thereby giving it value for it to be appraised in a real way. For the analysis of the two articles and then the rating, the basis or logic for the article's rating is to know whether the article provided the solution for work-life balance, or partial solution for work-life balance, or no solution at all for work-life balance. So providing solution, we score an article high. Providing partial solution will provide medium, but providing no solution will rate an article low. The first T in TEPUPAS represents transparency, and using it for Jimenez and Keeler, I scored them medium. They listed the databases and keywords. The flexible work arrangement was measured, and findings from 148 publications are considered. So I scored them medium for transparency. For Vandevous and others, the transparency criteria, the research question was upfront. It was very clear. 11 reviews were selected with cross-checking, but no further explanation was made, so I scored them high. On accuracy, Jimenez and Keeler, I scored them high because the review question actually provided a pathway to the solution of the problem at hand. On accuracy, Vandevous and others, I scored them high also because the research question was actually relevant towards the solution of the problem. For purposivity, Jimenez and Keeler, I scored them medium because the review question promised to provide rigorous assessment of literature, but actually did not actually justify it well. For purposivity, I scored Vandevous and others high because the 8 studies included multiple performance and outcomes, so it was very clear they gave enough evidence. On utility, Jimenez and Kelia, I scored a medium because the article actually provided some solutions but did not actually address the main problem at hand. On utility, Van der Voort and others, I scored them high because they recommended employee well-being on mutual gains and actually addressed the problem at hand to solve the problem in locus innovation. On propriety, Jimenez and Kelia, I scored them high because the article addresses ethical and legal matters. They outline all the databases they use and mention all the searches material, so they were very clear. On propriety, Van der Voort and others, I scored them high because they informed us which database and which searches were used in the review. On accessibility, Jimenez and Kelia, I scored them high because the research question was very clear. It was actually a pointer on what the research is on. For accessibility, I scored Van der Voort and others high because the research question, the research purpose was clearly stated in the abstract, and that was very clear for us to know where they are driving at. So it was very clear. The review examines which of the competing perspectives, which is mutual gain or conflicting. So everything was very clear from the beginning. We knew where we were heading to. As you pick up the review to read, you will understand what they meant, what they are looking for, and where they are actually going. So I scored them high. Specificity, Jimenez and Kelia, I scored them high because the standard of knowledge were met. Many studies were analyzed, so they provided a good solution. Van der Voort and others, I scored them high because they were specific on the point, providing solution to the problem at hand. Standards of knowledge were met, and many studies were analyzed to give us solutions. Let's do some important evaluations. The first evaluation will be on limitations of study. For that, I scored both articles high. For Jimenez, I scored high, and then Van der Voort and others are scored high also. So the limitations of flexible working arrangement was presented formally and informally, but the limitations there is based on the sample study, the location, and the sample study that was used for both articles. They are high. Still looking at evaluation of limitations. At this time, let's look at the potential biases in the two articles. Jimenez and Kelia, I scored them high. The potential biases in these two articles, this article is high. They had large variation in sample size. There was homogeneity in sample composition. There was no versatility. Lack of consistent reporting of sample information. So they didn't really buttress to explain how the samples are. So they did not articulate on the samples. They didn't bring out values of the samples. They didn't actually give us variation, how the samples will actually work from stage to stage, places to places, environment and environment. So I scored them high in potential biases. For Van der Voort and others, for potential biases, I scored them low. They had only one potential biases, which is potential biases such as location and organizational culture were not addressed. So they didn't really address the difference in locations. For example, this research may be in UK. The culture in UK is different. The law in UK is different. The people there, they are different. So you can't actually replicate this particular research or implement the result or the recommendation of this research is in US. Because right in the United States of America, our law differs. The way we do things differs, which is our culture. Our work environment differs also. The way we do things here differs. So potential bias in location, that is eminent. But I scored them low on that. This is the final dashboard to compare the two articles head to head using Tepupa's framework on the criteria of transparency, accuracy, purposivity, utility, propriety, accessibility, specificity, bias, and limitation. you will see that in some they scored the same, and in some they scored differently. In conclusion, for Dimenes and Kelia, you all know that the purpose of this research is low staff retention rate due to a reported lack of work-life balance. The question here is, will it be in our own best interest for Locus Innovation to create a more flexible work environment for its staff in order to solve the problem? So Dimenes and Kelia focus on flexible work and performance. So they did not arrive at a favorable conclusion because they say there is a greater need for more clarity in this field in order to arrive to a solution. In conclusion, for Van der Voort and others, their focus was on employee well-being and the HRM organizational performance relationship, which will be a solution to the problem. So they concluded that the effects of HRM on happiness and relationship well-being will support mutual gains perspective instead of the other way around, which is for function of conflicted outcome. That means that the company should focus on well-being that will actually help the employees, not just focusing on company's performance and then neglecting the employee well-being. In my own opinion, the most feasible article to solve this problem will be Van der Voort and others. I chose Van der Voort and others because they presented a rounded solution for work-life balance through flexible work arrangements. They presented two perspectives. The first perspective is the mutual gains perspective. This perspective actually provides work-life balance by benefiting the employees and the company at the same time, which is what we are looking for. But the conflicting outcome only provided work-life arrangement which will only benefit the organization, and you know that is not what we are looking for. Now let's look at the recommendations. After the review of the two articles, I was able to come to a conclusion and provide recommendations. The first recommendation is that the effect of work-life balance on happiness and relationship well-being will support the mutual gains perspective of the company. And that means the mutual gains is when actually the employees are being considered in the work-life balance. So it's not just for the performance of the company, thereby affecting the work-life balance or the flexible work arrangement of the employees. Number two is implementing work-life balance through what we call the flexible work arrangement. That means providing the employees some flexible way of working, remote job, and possibly providing opportunities for them to do their 40 hours in lesser days, like 2, 3, or 4, instead of the regular 5 days in a week. And then providing a relaxing work environment for them to really do their job and be stress-free. Number three, from a management perspective, to implement work-life balance activities can be beneficial for employees in terms of happiness and relationship forms of well-being to the national performance. And so when the employees are happy, they actually put their best to work so that the company will benefit from it. So from management perspective, management should come together and understand that work-life balance will always be something that will benefit the company. So provide a good environment for the employees and then let them do the job. They will remain in the company. The retention level will go high. People will not be leaving the company prematurely, then they will contribute to the advancement of the company because they are working in a good environment that allows them to do their job very well and still have a well-being concerning their health, happiness, and family. Thank you. These are my references.